The City of Southport Special Called Board of Aldermen meeting workshop, April 6, 2022, is now called to order. The topic of this evening's meeting, streetlight policy review. Reverend Alderman Lowe Davis is not here tonight, so for our invocation, we will stand and have a moment of silence for what is going on in Ukraine, and also for those who suffered the tragedy of tornadoes and horrible weather on yesterday. That'll be followed by our pledge. Please stand. I want to welcome everyone who's here, and welcome those who are watching at home. To have gotten more people here, maybe we should have called it the Streetlight Policy Review for Indigo Plantation. Thank you, Alderman Carroll. So anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you, board, for being here. Thank you, city staff. Item D, approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Lombardi, second by Mayor Pro Tem. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Our topic this evening, light. In our city recently, it has been lights, action, camera, the traditional cue for the members of a film crew at the beginning of a take. We see trucks with lighting on it. In literature, The Charge of the Light Brigade, a poem by Alfred Lord Tennyson about an act of bravery and sacrifice that continues today. A poem by Emily Dickinson, A Light Exists in Spring. And from my high school English class, a title of a book I've never forgotten, and I was happy to think about it on this day because of this meeting, The Light in the Forest by Conrad Richter. And from Genesis, and God said, let there be light. So light is a wonderful metaphor. I've used it in my mayoral updates. We can curse the darkness or celebrate the light. In our daily lives and in our work, without light, where would we be? The acronym in Southport, CP&L, Carolina Power and Light. So I want to thank the Streetlight Committee and city staff for working on this draft policy. We're looking for policy that provides safety and lighting with the least negative impacts on our people and our wildlife while promoting the beauty of the night sky. So with that, I will call on Mayor Pro Tem Mosteller.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for being here. As we know, street lights can be part of the health and safety of a community, and an important design element that contributes to the overall look and feel of a community. So that's why this is a very important decision. And it's also important to update this policy because it affects existing lights as well as new subdivisions. The UDO requires that the subdivider of a major subdivision creating new streets to install street lighting in accordance with the city's streetlight policy. So this policy is very important for the future of development in our community as well. The stated purpose of the draft is to reduce negative impacts on wildlife, human eye sensitivity, and the natural beauty of the night sky while providing light to enhance safety and the city's appearance. We will recognize that we are a historic community, and lighting is, from a design standpoint, is very important. We live in an environmentally sensitive coastal area, and while all artificial light impacts wildlife, we refer to the recommendations from the International Dark Skies Association, which is a nonprofit recognized as a leader in providing support and technical assistance for policy. Dark skies recommendations help mitigate the effects of exterior lighting by requiring exterior light fixtures to be shielded to prevent light from emitting upwards toward the sky with a maximum warm white color temperature of 3,000 degrees Kelvin. The draft includes a list of approved fixtures that are consistent with dark skies certification and a map identifying the locations for the types of fixtures. Going through, if we want to do, y'all have a copy, I hope everybody picked up a copy of the first 4 pages, which is sort of the narrative of the policy. And you can see that we have the purpose, which I've already shared more or less with you. This policy also covers the ETJ because the ETJ is affected by the UDO. The ETJ is also responsible for following the UDO. Let's see. It's pretty self-explanatory. Let me show y'all real quick the light fixtures and also the map. So you do not have a copy of this. So let me show you. Oh, wait, I have the clicker. Oh, how did I get to the other one? Because I want to show you. Well, at first, let me show y'all. There are 3 choices maybe I need to stand like that with my back to it. There are 3 choices for what you might use in a subdivision that are going to be approved fixtures as part of the policy. So this will be 3 fixtures that develop, anybody building or subdivisions will be able to pick from those 3. Now they can do other fixtures, but we won't maintain them or take them over. So, and then this is, y'all are familiar with this fixture. This is the one that you see like in the yacht basin. There's several of them. This fixture was selected several years ago, and so we're looking at this as Southport's special fixture. And so anyway, so that, and then these are all, like, remember this is a draft, so these are all recommendations from the committee. On other streets where we'll, instead of using the aluminum pole, we're using a wood pole, so it sort of disappears into, I know some of you have probably seen those brushed aluminum that look a little bit industrial. So this sort of sides into the neighborhood, and they last 40, 50 years. And they have the added benefit of sequestering carbon, just FYI. Anyway, so and that will be with the overhead fixtures, okay? And then, let me go. This is just, the city manager asked for a flow chart of how things would get adopted and what we did and what we were responsible for in that. And so this is just a flow chart that comes from the narrative. How do I get to the, oh, Lena. Awesome. Okay, so this is the map, and the different colors represent different areas. So the areas where what we call the Southport Special light, the dome lights that you see, this is the what is the designated historic district that you can see defined on the city website. And then the entry corridor overlay. I mean, not overlay, but the entry corridor here and here. So that what happens is once, it's not that we're going to go in and do all of this, but what happens is when we do underground, when it goes underground, that's when new lights go up, and that's when these lights would be part of a project like that. So, so that's that. Then the green is where the other overhead lights with the wooden poles would be, like they are now. It's the same, you know, you see sort of some of them are round glass looking up on poles. Anyway, and then these are subdivisions. These subdivisions, this is indigo, for example. These are the dashed lines, and you can see this map on the city website. The dashed lines show that these are PAL bill streets. This means they're city-maintained streets. So where you don't see these dashes are not city-maintained streets. So that's kind of all of that. The thing with the fixtures, I hope everybody's had, does anybody have any, we're such a small group, does anybody have any questions about the map while I'm standing up here with it? No, it's pretty self-explanatory. So, okay, awesome. So when we look through, should I turn this off? Yeah. So when we start looking through the policy, we can just start, the definitions, I think all that's very self-explanatory. The street lights, the height, then it skipped to the artificial light, general use, 40-foot, can't exceed a 40-foot pole. Typically our street lights are mounted at 30 feet. So just so you know what that is, they're typically mounted at 30 feet. Lighting with any, so this is that. Lighting of city-maintained streets. The goal of this policy, of course, is to provide safety and effective lighting on city-maintained streets. That also is consistent with the community's historic character and residential neighborhoods. One of the things that is unusual, we have, and I'm in this section, it talks about city-maintained streets, and but we have some unique situations with regard to electric utilities in Southport. For example, River Mist is supplied electricity. They're actually several years ago, whoever made the decision that they are a customer of Brunswick Electric. They're not actually a customer of Southport. But with that said, the draft clarifies the responsibilities of the city regarding maintenance and operation of streetlights on city-maintained roads. And it clarifies that the city's responsibility regarding streetlights in communities like River Mist, when River Mist was developed, the city decided to use Brunswick Electric, which I already said. But while River Mist has city-maintained roads, Brunswick Electric is their supplier. So this year, so I just want to, we had a recommendation that it's in the plan to reimburse the HOA because they have to pay a lease monthly for those lights. And we recommend in the draft that we reimburse them the same amount that we pay for each one of our lights, which is $11.75 is what's budgeted. This year's city budget included $99,000 designated for streetlight operation and maintenance. This is not part of the electric enterprise fund. This is a line item in the general fund, which is a distinction that's important, because if we funded our streetlights through the enterprise fund, as far as the maintenance and operation, then that money would stay in the enterprise fund. You're a member of the enterprise fund, just like with the water sewer enterprise fund. So, but this has always been, to my knowledge, a line item in the general fund. The $99 breaks down to a monthly charge of $11.75 for operation and maintenance of each of the city's streetlights. Because River Mist Community and Townhomes electric services are provided by Brunswick Electric, and they have those lease agreements, they pay Brunswick Electric for their streetlight. But since River Mist has city-maintained streets, which would typically include city-maintained streetlights, the committee thought it appropriate for the city to reimburse the River Mist HOA $11.75 a month per streetlight. This would result in an additional $10,575 annually, reflecting about a 10% increase to that streetlight budget. And River Mist makes up approximately 15% of the residences in Southport at this time. So we feel like that would be a fair thing to do. So. Yeah, go ahead.
As I think this through, if we take Price's Creek development, their streets are not taken over by the city, nor are their lights, but they have unique lights. Assuming that they fix their streets to come up to speed and we take them over and they keep those lights, are we going to subsidize those lights in that neighborhood like we're going to do in River Mist? And I'm not against any of this.
No. Well, I don't think it's subsidizing. I would look at it as we're paying for streetlight service. I mean, that's part of what the city is doing for its residents. That's how I would look. I hear what you're saying, but yes.
Can clarify that. So we're going to turn your microphone on. So BEMC is whatever they're charging River Mist. Let's just say it's $15. We're going to pay $11.75 and 26. We're going to pay $11.75. It's up to River Mist to pay the additional cost, and it will be for any other subdivision that has special lights.
The same thing would happen with other. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you. I'm good with all of that. I just want to make sure it's clear.
Yeah, that's good to clarify. No, and don't hesitate to interrupt me, anybody, even because there's so few of you. If you got a question, just have at it. Okay, so that's in here. That's new to the streetlight policy, and then there's really, I don't know as far as streetlight, the map we looked at. If you had and. Again, going back to what Rich was saying, the non-conforming, as an example, Price's Creek, which we talked about, have really high-end street lights that would be considered non-conforming street lights, and we would pay for the service, but we wouldn't repair them or replace them, kind of thing, because it would be way out of our scope. So anyway, there's that. I showed you the lights. One of the biggest conversations to have, and I know all of you probably talked with citizens about the color of the lights, when a light gets replaced and it's a new bright bluish light that has been going on. So I'm hoping if anybody is out there watching this or watches this later, they go by and see we have a demo set up on Soft Wind in the Hammocks neighborhood. If you go up Stuart and then turn left into Soft Winds, it's the first 4 lights, and there are 4 different color temperatures. There's 2 of them are 4Ks, one of them's a 3K, and one's a 2700. So, and we appreciate any feedback when you look at that. There's been a lot of discussion about that, and technology has been evolving because of efficiencies. LED light emitting diode lights have quickly become the standard. 6 years ago, street lights with a color temperature below 4,000 degrees Kelvin were not readily available in LEDs. So that's why the actual dome lights that we have now that you see, they're actually, I think they're 5Ks because they were purchased back when that technology had not evolved. So we can now get those in 2700 or whatever that we wind up doing. So, let's see, software in the picture. The 2700 is typical, just to give you context, it is a typical incandescent light color temperature. So when you see the light bulb in your home, it's that same color temperature, typically. Currently, we still have fixtures that are sodium vapor fixtures. These sodium vapor fixtures have a color temperature of about 2200 degrees Kelvin. That's why they appear so amber. And so, but because of efficiencies, this technology is being replaced with LED lights. So without getting too much into the weeds, how we see light is based on the rods and cones. The color of the light is based on the rods and cones in our eyes. And a 4,000 Kelvin light appears brighter because it has more blue in it. It's higher on the spectrum, more like the color of daylight. A 2,700 Kelvin light appears more amber because it's lower on the spectrum. So that's one of the things that I'm hoping we'll make a decision. And I'm hoping to put this on the agenda for the coming board meeting so we can pass this and move on. So does anybody have any other, Rich? Sorry.
I apologize. To stay with the night sky thing, we'd only have two options, the 3,000 and the 2,700. Am I correct in understanding that? If I heard you correctly, and I may not have, the night sky program says you can only have as a maximum 3,000? And so if we were to stay with that program, this would be down to two colors, or two Kelvins. 2,700 and 3,000 are the ones that are available for us to pick from. Is that correct?
Yeah, that would be correct.
Okay.
For what we want to do, though, is pick one. And but that's...
I'm good with the 2,700.
Yeah.
I think that everybody that I've ever talked to is at that level.
That's the feedback I'm getting too.
Okay.
So, and I'm glad everybody's, I hope this gets recorded. If anybody has any other conversation about it, that would be great to share it. Anyway, so that's... Hello? Yeah. Does anybody have any more questions? It really is sort of... That's pretty much it in a nutshell. I can talk to you about the... Yes, ma'am.
Going up there, wouldn't the amber be better in the fog?
Oddly enough, I'm glad you asked that. One thing I learned in all this research is just like your fog lights, the more amber it is, the better it is for fog because it doesn't scatter. The higher on the color temperature, the way the light actually moves is different, and so that's why 2,700 is even better for that reason too. So thanks.
Just to clarify, in the subdivisions, let's say every time a light goes out and needs to be replaced, whichever light is chosen, that will be the light. So in order to have all the lights be the same, we just have to wait till each one blows out and then to the replacement. Versus now, the replacements, like you said, were the blue lights or whatever, and they were not very nice to look at. So, okay, we just wanted to clarify, because I know some of our neighbors may not understand that, and if this proposal gets voted on, I just didn't want people to expect to see all of a sudden every single light replaced. It's as they blow out. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that question. Yeah, we don't have the resources, let's be real clear, we don't have the resources to come in and relight everything or redo them all. It'll be through attrition that this happens, and it'll happen when we do underground. One of the things like House Street, when House Street goes underground, then we'll put in new street lights, because that'll be part of that underground project, because it has to be wired, a totally different kind of conversation. So that's how that, Rich?
Just a follow-up question. Is it possible for at least for the HOAs, that since some of their lights burnt out, and they are, as Mr. Price says, living in a baseball stadium now, that the HOA could pay to have the, whatever, 4,000, whatever Kelvin he has, replaced with a 2,700? Would we entertain that?
Oh, absolutely. There's nothing, we can certainly facilitate something like that, because it's just we wouldn't have the budget for it. But if the HOA wanted to do fixtures that were in compliance with our policy, then hey, that would be awesome.
I think the Landing has 2 or 3 of these stadium lights. And so as theirs burnt out, they had the company that provides that service for us took the light that they had in their hand and stuck it in there, and it's very bright.
They did that in the absence of guidance.
Right.
Right. And that's what this is.
Correct.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Mr. Price.
Good evening. My name's Glenn Price. My question, I applaud the move to the 2700. It's a much better light, I think, for our environment. But my question is, that addresses the temperature or the color as you see it. You would see a white light or a brilliant blue light in most applications. This would reduce it and make it more of an incandescent or a yellowed light, like you're saying. One of the other things that I think needs to be addressed is the intensity of that light. Even it being yellow and being fog light, that's great, good color, but if it is so bright that it is still beaming in everybody's windows, it's not a pleasing light. And I know that from my research on the lights that the city is looking at putting in use, there is a device which can be added to any of these LED lights that allows them to turn down the intensity of that light, still making it usable, but not as brilliant as a so-called stadium light.
Thank you for that conversation. The lights that have been being used in the past were, excuse me, P30s, and that has to do with how many diodes are up there and all that. But we're recommending P20s for our standard light. I have talked with Brunswick Electric about options of dimming and all that, but it wasn't clear to me that it was something just as simple as adding it to each individual light. So,
Karen, isn't there also doesn't the foot candle chart?
Right. You have to have a certain amount of light, so you can't just dim it because it's actually done by design. Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying, yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, we can consider that. I'm not, I would have to talk with Brunswick Electric and what all that would mean, but part of the thing is too, lighting is designed, so when you put these things in that affect it, we're hoping that the fixtures we pick are, and they have to be shielded so they don't allow light to go up. So it is both of those components of the dark skies certification, although we're not certified for dark skies because that's a huge thing, but we are trying to be in compliance with what their rules would be.
If I might just add, there are about 20 people watching at home, so if someone
awesome.
speaks, could you please use the microphone?
Okay, awesome. The other thing I wanted to point out is in our first meeting, we learned from some HOA members that asked us to make the same process for adding a light if somebody wants to add a light or relocate a light. You need to get, say you decide that it's not safe, you feel that a light needs to be added at your house in the street, you have to get 2 neighbors on either side, 2 deep on each side, and then 3 across the street to sign off on it, and then it will be up to then the city will certainly put it on a list, and then it'll be a budgetary thing. Get it done as a budget allows. So that's the same whether it's an HOA or Atlantic Avenue. So.
Any other questions from the board or anyone else in the public that would like to speak?
Sir, we did have Mr. Adam Stedman.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Adam Studman. I reside at 5968 Dutchman Creek Road. Yeah, quite a crowd here today compared to Monday. But anyway, I definitely wish to thank our aldermen for their efforts regarding this issue, especially Karen and Rich, and as well as our city manager. The work has been really diligent, and I wholeheartedly support option D, the 2700K. I agree with Mr. Price as well with the intensity concerns. I really do support the idea of having the dimmer option for the various lights. I think that's great. I do know that in Indigo Plantation, you do have that inconsistency between the newer lights and the older sodium halide lights, and it'd be nice to have the consistent 2700. It's kind of the best of both worlds. I'm sure Jenny agrees. So it would be great to have that. And it is interesting that perhaps the HOA would have the option to, fund an update prematurely. Of course, that would be up to the HOA. I would definitely be in support of that to ensure consistency with some of the brighter lights. I would be happy to help fund that myself, in fact. But yeah, that's obviously something for the HOA in particular. I also agree that it's a good idea for new lighting to have a consistent policy, HOA, non-HOA. There was one other thing that I wanted to mention that I haven't really mentioned before, just a suggestion. As far as the 3 different types of lighting, the acorn and then the 2 like chandelier colonial types, I wonder if there would be a way in the residential area to have a 4th option equivalent to the special light that's completely shielded around so it doesn't shine outward, right? Because all 3 of those options shine in all directions, or they're omnidirectional, but the special one, the so-called special one that's kind of cupped all the way around, I think it would be good to have an option in the in a particular neighborhood to have that type as well. That's just my suggestion, where I don't know if those would even be feasible in a neighborhood because they might be more for commercial use or commercial/industrial use, but that's something it would be nice to have one that's completely shielded so it doesn't shine in every direction, so it would shine directed toward the road. But that's, you know, that's just my suggestion, as I'd said. So, but anyway, thank you very much for your support.
I'm Yvonn Moody from 609 Marshgrass Court, and I am wondering if these regulations will apply to the marina. I can see the marina from my screened porch, and there's especially one light that seems excessively bright, and I don't think it is shielded to meet the Dark Sky Association standards. And I'm not quite sure who would be the person to follow up on that.
Thanks for that question.
Okay.
I believe that whatever is there is probably grandfathered in, but it would be replaced with something, you know, yeah, because we can't really go to every light that isn't compliant and tell people to change them. We can't really do that. But they would be held accountable for the color temperature and the future and replacements and all of that. And any new lighting that, new lighting design or anything like that would have to be in compliance.
Alderman Mostedler, I'd like to make a comment. On page 2, section D, where you talked about residents may request a additional street light contingent on approval by the neighbors. And if that happens, then the city will process the request and may cover all costs as long as the budget allows. I think it's important to note the distinction on page 3, heading E, that when residents request the relocation of a street light, that they will be responsible for all costs that are associated with that relocation, and it must be paid in full before the city will move it. I just want to make sure that we're clear on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, anyone else? Okay. Any other questions from the board? Okay. Any comments from the boards, questions, anything? Okay. It's been a very informative meeting. This is an important issue, and we look forward to it being on the agenda for our meeting, our next Board of Aldermen meeting. If there's no further questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay, Mr. Lombardi and Mr. Allen. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Motion carried. Thank you.